Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to Core Live's Bigfoot Geography, the show where we explore Bigfoot phenomenon all around the world. I'm your host, Kazar Iwakura, and along with me is Jaster and Come along with us today as we talk about Bigfoot in South Carolina. How you doing, Jaster?
It took a while to get the boat up on the marina.
We finally remembered to get the boat back, guys.
Yeah, weirdly, the floodplain that is now known as Kentucky has helped me quite a lot, okay, on finding the boat. It floated all the way back. It was amazing.
Yeah, we lost it a while.
Somewhere in the Mississippi, and it's back. Split in half, but it's here.
Yeah, that's fine. We just did a little bit of red-green handiwork, and it's all good now.
God. Can we just... so much love for that show, okay? This is like my whole
Ladies
childhood.
don't like you because you're pretty, though. At least like you because you're handy. So.
Handyman's secret weapon. 20 rolls of duct tape.
So today we're talking about Northwest South Carolina, as I said in the intro. Me and Jaster, as always, have dug up some really interesting stuff. Where specifically in South Carolina are we talking about, Jaster?
All right, so the place that I really want to start at right now is a place known as Lake Keowee, or Keowee. Not entirely sure. It's Keowee. Now, a part of the whole background of this place is that this was a partial shooting location for the movie Deliverance, which was one of Burt Reynolds' breakout roles. If anybody doesn't know about that movie, it's a wild ride. But it was partially shot in South Carolina and Kentucky and in a couple other bigger places way out in the woods, okay? Now, nothing that we could find Bigfoot related or otherwise happened to the crew outside some wild encounters that we'll get into later in the show. But it seems as though we've had some encounters of the supposed Bigfoot variety that comes out of this area. And there's a wild coincidence with this story, so let's go ahead and get into it.
All right, Jaster, take it away.
What we got tonight is BFR report number 26029. All right, this happened in the year 1979 in Oconee County, South Carolina, northwestern portion. Now, this location itself was a flooded valley near a Duke power plant, which we'll put in the video here so you guys can kind of understand what's going on here. But it's closer to the town of Seneca and Lutherland Road. Now, this guy was about 15 years old whenever his parents moved. He was visiting his grandparents up in Miami, Florida. And he was walking up around here. Or I'm sorry, I messed that all up. He was from Miami, Florida, and he was visiting his grandparents here in South Carolina. Makes a lot more sense now whenever I read it right. Now,
yeah, sure does.
It's a great part of being Appalachian. They don't teach me to read very good. I was hooked on phonics. Now, this guy was walking through a pretty remote forest section of Lake Keowee around twilight, right? So, pretty late. He ended up seeing a large shape walk up to a section of the lake on a 20% incline, is what he said, from left to right across the dirt road and into a dense forest at a higher elevation to the right. And he was approximately 50 yards away whenever it saw him. He said the light was very low, but what he could tell, this thing was not very human-like at all. It was at least 7 to 8 foot tall. He approximated around 450 pounds. He said there was no real neck, and it was reddish in color. So he bolted in a panic, and it ran up the hill and started to parallel him as he was running down the road. And according to him, it had this scream that the cove ended up amplifying because of the acoustics that was going on in the area that he was in. And it sounded, quote unquote, like a cow and a pig being killed on a rock concert sound system. Now,
that's quite the description.
That's what stuck out to me. I was like, man, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about. I like this guy. He's got redneck ass like descriptions here. It's my kind of dude.
Yeah.
So apparently he's talking to the locals, and the pastor of the church indicated that many people have seen this creature and heard it in this area for years. Now, he's an airline captain, and he holds a degree in zoology, and he was watching Monster Quest, and he heard a scream, and it sent him back. Now, this guy went from being a Bigfoot maybe to a Bigfoot believer type guy. You know what I mean? He's like, there's no doubt about it. Now, whenever you have an encounter like that and you start hearing other people with stuff like that, like, I can get it. I can get behind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let's go ahead and get into what I find to be the biggest coincidence here. Now, the investigative follow-up report was done by BFRO investigator Don Tart. Okay? Now, a little bit on this guy before we get into what he was doing is that he was a commissioning engineer for Georgia, avid outdoorsman. He's a life scout, member of the Order of the Arrow, and the Boy Scout commissioner for Oconee County. So this guy loves the outdoors, okay? He was a team scout for finding Bigfoot on the South Carolina episode.
Okay.
He has intended 3 expeditions, and he did 2 years of pre-scouting for the BFRO, and he was a guide for an expedition twice in Florida. And he was the sponsor of the 2011 South Carolina Bigfoot expedition, and he's the founding member of the tracking team for the BFRO in the Southeast, anyway.
So, all right, okay. So what you're telling me is this guy is about as decorated as it can get when it comes to field experience.
I mean, as far as Bigfootology goes, this guy's got all the pins, you know what I mean? He's the equivalent of a North Korean general, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's that one meme shot of the guy throwing the cape off, and he's got medals from breast to breast. You know,
like, oh my God, this is the man. He's him.
Yeah.
All right, so not to make light of this guy, but this is one of the dudes that you would probably want to handle your investigation. Like, definitely lives and breathes the woods. Okay.
Yeah.
And this guy said, I spoke with the witness on several occasions, found him to be very truthful and forthcoming. He said he went to the location of the sighting and found the area as he had described it. Duke Energy flooded the area in the early 70s, and many of the Native American trails and villages there are now underwater. The area gained fame during this era by the filming of the movie Deliverance in and around the lake region of Oconee and Pickens counties. The area still remains fairly sparse but has upscale homes along the lakefront now. And now the witness described the encounter being in a narrow section of land. He said, I found the narrow section of land and the site of the old mobile home park that once was there. There continues to be reports coming from both sides of the lake, and has recently been a flurry of recent sightings, possibly brought on by the TV series Finding Bigfoot or the encroachment of their land by lake development. He said just north of this area is a road called Screaming Hollow and one across the lake known as Booger Branch, which brings to mind the local lore of the area. And he says, my property lies due west by a distance of 6 miles. We have heard the screams, as the witness described, on numerous occasions. They are quite unnerving and do sound much like a cow in distress, but last much longer and is blood-curdling. Some of the recordings are posted on Stan Courtney's website from the upstate area. He said many of the local Cherokee legends speak of the slant-eye giant who inhabited these frostlands of western and north South Carolina. The Cherokee Foothills Trail is in close proximity as well, as the vast forest of Sumter National Forest is also in this report. And he says, I will continue to monitor the area for activity. What's that?
One, I would like to have one of those recordings in the episode. Dear editing Jaster, please grab some of those. I would love to have some Squatch audio in our episode this week. That'd be great. Great.
Oh my God, right? I definitely want to try.
Especially for a cry that, like, a call that peculiarly of that nature. It's not often you hear a Squatch call described as blood-curdling, so that's...
I've had a couple that I think I understand what they're talking about. There's like almost a veracity to it, where you're listening to, like, I don't know if they're sound blasting or what, but like, I've never heard anything sound like that before in my life. Have you ever heard any of those shorts or any of those videos where people are basically just out on their porch in the middle of the woods in the mountains somewhere and they just hear one of these things going off and it sounds like it's maybe just down the hill out of sight?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder. Like, I can understand, like, without much visual confirmation, you just got to take people at their word. And some people are going to have problems with that. But, like, for people that can kind of keep a more open mind with it, like, it does kind of give you some thoughts. And, like, for anybody that's heard anything like that out there, that's all the affirmation some people need, you know, that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And that's completely fine. Like, but what I find so crazy about it is that this dude is, like, literally a 10-minute drive away from where it happened. This guy was able to go, like, oh, yeah, I got photographs. Bam, 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 bam. You know, we're going to post them up there for you guys to see as well. Like, this guy was able to drive right on out there and be like, I know exactly where this place is. And he goes, we've got sightings everywhere, all over this lake, all over both counties. And he's like, it's everywhere. Don't worry about it. Now, there's something that I want to bring up in another story here, but something that I think everybody needs to kind of bring into account, too, with these kind of encounters is that, like, the Class A encounters are much easier for somebody to put both of their feet directly on the ground and say, I had an unnatural encounter, right? Now, things that don't have direct visual confirmation still have this kind of air of uncertainty to it. And unfortunately, some people do and some people don't get into the mentality of almost trying to find Bigfoot in something.
Yeah.
And so, like, whenever you get a place that people consider a hotspot, you do kind of got to be a little wary. Like, they say they've got a place called Screaming Hollow and the other place known as Booger Branch. You know, like, unfortunately, for some of these areas that they are a hotspot, almost to the point where some of these places get their own economy based around it, you almost got to start looking at those areas with a bit more salt in your proverbial pinch. You know what I mean? But I think it's crazy that the whole area where they were shooting freaking Deliverance turns out to be a Bigfoot hotspot. Like, that's a crazy coincidence. I guess they found the right place to film. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my goodness. Like, we out here so far filming this movie, we're going to find Bigfoot. All right. But that's all I got for that one, Kaz. Go ahead and line me up one of these that you got going on here.
All right. So, as usual, I dipped into the Bigfoot Encounters archive. I went looking on NAWAC, the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, and see if they had anything in South Carolina. But I think that's just outside their range that they like to operate in. Because they like southeast, United States, and I think Mississippi is about as far east as they like to go. So I guess really south central.
Right.
I was hoping to get something from them, but I couldn't. So I did find a nifty tool that we might use in the future. They have a calculator to grade how good an area is for squatches.
Really?
Yes. So I think next time we have some actual in-depth info, because we're doing this one a little off the cuff this week, folks. Is that we
maybe I can use the Squatch calculator to.
We'll use the NAWAC calculator to rate the locations we're looking at. So, I'm going to go with this one from York County in South Carolina. York County is right up there in the horn of South Carolina. This is right up in the northwestern section, which is where we are in this episode. It says near Fort Mill. So this is from a anonymous hunter who submitted this report in late 99, early 2000. Well, it said it was logged Saturday, October 14th, 2000. So late 2000, I guess. Well, no, anyways. I have had 2 encounters with Bigfoot. The first, I passed off as a big cat or a really big owl. The second, I was standing within 6 feet of it. Hey, I got your attention yet?
Mm-hmm.
I hunt. You name it, I've hunted it. I've been in the woods all my life. I've never been afraid of anything, ever seen any little green men or UFOs, but I have seen Bigfoot. The first time was late October 1999. I was in a deer stand. I got there early and stayed late. Didn't see anything as I was about to climb down for the evening until I heard a really loud howl or hoot. Something I had never experienced before, and it was close. I sat back down trying to figure it out, then it did it again. This time closer, and this time louder and longer. I thought maybe a panther off the refuge, or maybe a big owl. The next time, I tried to figure out its location and shine the only light I had in that direction, which was a small mini-mag flashlight. But nothing, and it went silent. I climbed down quickly and started out. It really let out a howl or whatever then. I turned and fired one round in the general direction of the sound, then silence again. Like I said, it was close, 50 yards at the most and 30 yards at the least. I had close to a half-mile walk to my truck, and on the way thinking what in the world could have been. Never heard anything like that, and for sure not that loud. I told my brother, who had studied wildlife biology, and he seemed to think it was some kind of cat. But I knew better and didn't dare doubt his education. I hunted that location for 4 years, more times that year, without incident. A new season came, and I went back to the same location, not far from where this event happened. I've been in the stand twice and haven't had any problem like sounds I can identify. Then it happened. I stayed in the stand link because I hadn't seen any deer and I wanted to see if possibly they had gone nocturnal on me. Still nothing. So I started down, untied my rifle, slung it across my shoulder, got my flashlight out of my pouch, turned around, and poof, out of nowhere, I hadn't heard it approach me. He says I had not heard a thing. I can only assume whoever submitted this means that he did not hear it approach. It was standing not 6 feet from me. My light hit it about halfway between its privates and its chest. The skin on my face and head got tight, and I froze. I could not move. I wanted to look up, but I was afraid to make any kind of movement, as it was way too close for me to get my rifle off my shoulder before it would have been on me. I could feel size and strength in the air. Then it made some kind of movement, almost like crossing its arms loosely. I started running backwards as fast as I could and reaching for my gun. This is the bit that confuses me. It made a deep hugging sound. Maybe he meant chugging. I don't know. This isn't the easiest one to read because it got posted as is, which is one of the kind of problems you get into these eyewitness reports. And it was gone just as fast as it appeared. Remember, all this happened in about 30 seconds. There was no bad smell, and I haven't been back to see if there are any tracks. I haven't told anyone, but I had to tell you.
And like I said, the guy wants to be anonymous, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he literally ends it in all caps. But please, comma, I want to remain anonymous, period. So...
yeah. It makes me wonder, is he like a guy that was hunting in the Fort Mill area? Is that like a military base, question mark?
I don't know. I don't
Was he hunting somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, and Bigfoot was like, gotcha. You know,
who knows, man? Who knows?
I think what's crazy about that whole thing is like that guy was like 6 feet from it. That's insane.
Yeah, that's reach out and touch it distance, you know? Like,
whatever that is, that's a freaking jump scare level distance, you know, for
that's a pants to be darkened moment if there ever was one.
And well, he like got down out of a stand, he turned around, got the flashlight on, and bam, he literally did the turn around bump into the monster kind of dumb shit.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a total Scooby-Doo moment, you know, like
nuts. And that happened to somebody. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man. And then like what he was trying to say is like a humping sound or like a
humping.
Yeah, like that makes more sense than a hugging sound. Like, yeah, I ain't never heard that.
That's what
before.
He had written. So I was like, a hugging sound? I don't get it. Like,
I'm trying to think of like maybe he's thinking on it like the sound of the word hug is the kind of sound it made.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then it was away.
Who knows?
Like, maybe that's what he's trying to say, like an ugh kind of sound.
I don't know.
That's a wild one. Like,
yeah.
Somebody that had 2 encounters, like, and then all of that hooting and whistling and all that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of people have heard that one before.
Yeah.
And that's something that kind of gets me about these encounters is like in this part of the world in Appalachia, like this is a veritable temperate rainforest, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Like, it's not like some people's woods. I'm not trying to knock anybody's woods, but like it's not a long visibility kind of situation. You get like 30 yards away is basically can't see it. Not because you're blind, but because there's so much stuff out there. There's so much foliage out there. Brush, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, depending on the area that you're in, 30 yards is low visibility.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, for something to get that close to you and be able to make those sounds and you not being able to visually confirm it, that is definitely, that's some devious behavior.
Yes.
Like, it knows you can't see it. Like that.
Yeah, it makes me question the intention of the individual in this report.
I'm thinking questioning the level of intelligence as well.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't seem like... I mean, this is something that we keep going back to is the whole primate versus like hominid theory. And a lot of these, to me, just lean more hominid. Like,
So this is what I'm going to ask. Do you think he nearly got by a gugway?
I don't know. I think
Look at it this way. Look at it this way. When he turned around and showed his flashlight in front of him, he wasn't even midway up its chest, right?
that's a big one.
That's a big one.
Like, at the very least, it's huge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't able... Like, if he was able to get a better look at it, I would make a better judge of it. But, like, that would be the closest encounter to a gugway I've ever heard of.
If it was a gugway. There's just no... We don't have enough information
I would
about the
almost
individual
lean more
in
towards
this.
just a Bigfoot, because it allowed
Yeah,
it to
it
get
just
that
might
close.
just be a plain old squatch. Yeah.
Like, I would say you'd have to have a lot of control in order to get that close to a person, in order to essentially just scare them. You know what I mean? Like, that's got to be what it was. You know, like, if it actually wanted to assault the hunter, it had every availability to do so.
Yeah.
So, like, what it's telling me is that what it is essentially, like, bluff charging without actually moving. You know, it's just sitting there, being all big. And this is, it, like, loosely folded its arms across his chest at him, like, almost like, I'm not, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that impressed with you. And, like, that denotes a level of confidence in, probably, in order to get that, a level of intelligence. Like, that's what I'm thinking. Because, like, whenever you're hearing about all these stories where these things are getting so close to you and they're messing with you in all these kind of ways, like, I keep going back and thinking about these chimpanzee stories and these orangutan stories, right? Where you're hearing about all of these tribes of monkeys that are reacting to human presence. And at no point have I heard of a tribe getting to the point where their silverback gorilla is like 6 feet away from this hunter with a gun. Like, their level of self-survival usually gets them away from the human, especially the one with the boomstick, if they know what that is. And we know through research that chimpanzees and other primates know when humans go to war and they retreat farther into human territory, or out of human territory, I'm sorry. And so why wouldn't, at the very least, this thing do the same? If it knows you're hunting in it, near it, if it's self-preservation would mean, if it's more on the animal side, that it would go away from you, right?
Yeah, no, so it's just... There's a lot of questions, and unfortunately we don't have any... I mean, per usual with anything Bigfoot, we don't have... Oh, you'll have to forgive me for yawning. We're recording this one late. We usually record these in the afternoon. But, like, we have even less information than we usually do to go off of. So...
Right.
Well, that's definitely something to kind of chew on and mull over. I actually have another one from York County.
Let's hear it.
This takes place near Henry's Knob Mountain, which is in Clover, South Carolina. Again, this is also in York County. These are multiple sightings over the course of several years. Years ago, maybe 1977 or 78, my sister claims that around the bottom of Henry's Knob Mountain in Clover, South Carolina, period. No, sentence fragment. Here we go. That's how you know this is straight from the report. It was late at night when she was in the car with her friend, whom she was dating that night. She told me this huge hairy creature picked up the back end of the car they were in and was pushing them. Her friend could not grab hold of the steering wheel because it was thrashing so fast back and forth. She said the creature must have been about 9 feet tall. They were both terrified when they came home to tell this story. Another sighting was at the trailer my other sister lived in. That was around the same area. One night, she and my sister said they heard very heavy breathing, as if the trailer itself was breathing. That following morning, my brother-in-law walked around the trailer and found one huge footprint in the ground. My niece has also had a sighting in the same town when she was very young. She said she saw a hairy creature in the woods, and she saw it bite a kitten or a cat's head off. Also in York, South Carolina, I visited a friend who lived in a wooded area, and they also had some pigs in the yard. It was late at night, and she told me about the creature her dad told her about. We heard the strange noise that sounded like a cow, like howling noise, like no other noise he had heard before. That was also years ago, but I firmly believe these creatures do exist. They are just way too fast and intelligent for someone to track down. Their gait when they walk is one thing, but can you imagine them running? No wonder these creatures are spotted all over the place. Another sighting my sister and her friend said they saw was in Sumter, South Carolina, back in 1998. They saw a huge hairy creature in the daylight standing beside the railroad tracks not far from Span's Market in the Westfield area. Sometimes I wonder if Bigfoot is tracking my sister.
I think Dixie Cryptid said it best, that some of these people have some of the best or worst luck, however you want to put
it. Yeah.
Like, some people go their whole lives looking at about this phenomenon and never ever having a point of reference of anything weird happening to them. Yeah. And some people, it just happens to them like it's Tuesday.
Yep.
It's so weird.
There's a lot to talk about in this report. You just want to take it from the top down?
Yeah.
So, within like the subgenres of like Bigfoot encounters, Squatch's assaulting cars is a pretty interesting one.
I think it's your favorite subgenre, right?
It's one of them, yeah. Just because like it's what would motivate a Squatch to attack a car? You know, like is it a territory thing? Is it just for like if it is for territory, is it for intimidation? I just like this couple is up in Lover's Lane, and Squatch comes along and picks up the back of their truck and rattles them around. Like they're two menthols in a tin, like this.
Yeah, like actually shoving the car forward.
Yeah.
And like these cars, especially back in the 70s, they weren't light. Like these are still like over 1,000-pound vehicles, you know what I mean? And just something picking up the back end and just getting it so violent that the steering wheel is, you're having a hard time in a non-power steering vehicle. Like,
yeah.
To be fair, it would be harder for somebody to grab a hold of the thing and get it under control because it is not power steering. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that's a wild one. Like, but at the same time, imagine if that thing is shoving your whole car forward. That is going to be hard to get a hold of that wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one that the one that's a little crazy for me was like the niece had one in the. I'm skipping one real quick.
Yeah.
Where she was in the woods, nondescript part of the woods, and she just saw one eating a cat. And they're like, that one's kind of wild to me. Like, it took me a second to kind of look at that one. I was like, whoa, okay, that would be a wild one for, like, a kid to just see if that happened. And I know the missing pets phenomenon's a big thing. And, like, missing with livestock, wildlife in general. Like, I think the one thing that the other story brought up is that, like, if you're a hunter, you can't find no deer. The reason why that guy came into that 6-foot encounter was because he stayed because there wasn't no deer. He was like, man, I'm going to wait to see if they went nocturnal for some reason. And something was definitely there. That's why they weren't there.
Yeah.
And that's whenever you've got a lot of missing animals, no matter what reason that may be, you got to start thinking about a potential bigger predator in the area.
Yeah.
Or a potential pack of predators in the area. So, like, you definitely got to stay on your watch when that stuff happens. And for something to get to the point where it's just nabbing animals off the street willy-nilly is not good. That's when you really got to be careful and you got to make sure your pets are indoors and taken care of. You know what I mean? So, let's get back to the other one. I love trailer Sasquatch stories. Those are one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Alright, so they're over in the trailer, and the other sister was in the same area with her brother-in-law. You know what I mean? And they heard very heavy breathing as if the trailer itself was coming alive. That's a wild description. I ain't never heard that one before.
It's Trailer Stein. Oh my god.
Like, it's a mimic. Love it. Now, when it came out around the corner, this big old footprint in the ground, okay? Now, I've seen those. Those are wild. And, like, I've seen a couple of weird videos. I believe it was on Small Town Monsters, where they were, like, able to see where there's handprints, like, 9-10 feet up on the trailer or on the cabin, you know?
Yeah.
If they had
like
a handprint.
From where they, like, rested a hand to look inside or, like, smacked the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, if you see, like, smacks and stuff like that, checking around, see if you actually have an issue. Like, I've heard stories of the sidings getting cracked whenever walls get smacked, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, the one that the howl happened, okay? Mm-hmm. What is crazy to me is that, like...
It's the same descriptor from the one that you shared with us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same kind of howling noise, like a cow in distress, and no one's ever heard that kind of howl before. But also, like, whenever you're talking about looking higher up and throughout this little post here, the vicinity of animals being near a sighting. Like, there's pigs in the yard. Like, it's already supposedly hunting animals. Pigs are a pretty good source of protein, and we've got multiple reports throughout the years of people's pigs going missing. And we're not talking small ones all the time. We're talking like 300 to 400 pound pigs just vanishing. No carcass. Like something just picked it up, moved a 400 pound pig on off into the woods. Never to be seen again.
Yeah.
So, like, you got to be about just business. Because, like I said, even if you've got these big animals where, like, you would at least think that you would be able to catch whatever had done this thing to your 400 or 500 pound animal, you may not be able to do so. Like, they've got a lot of reports out there of calves going missing. And those ain't small all the time.
No, they're not. No.
Like, they're easy to go missing.
As soon as the report mentioned they had pigs in the yard, I was expecting it to be like, yeah, one of them got snatched or something, you know?
I know in our last episode there was a poultry farm that got quite a bit of casualties.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane how common of occurrence that is. Now, the one where I kind of was looking around and I was like, man, at this point, this family's cursed. It's like 20 years later when they're at pretty much a railroad tracks near a shopping center or a Span's Market, wherever that is. I'm not sure if that's a shopping center or not, but there's a Bigfoot on the railroad tracks, basically. Oh my God. Like, maybe it is following you. You know what I'm saying? Like, either that, or like I said before in our previous point, like, you do have to worry about potentially looking for Bigfoot in normal, weird things that happen. Like, vagrants are a thing, still to this day. You never know what someone might wear.
Yeah.
Like, especially way out in the woods, if that person's got some sort of survival skill, they might be able to fashion some sort of hide. Depending on in what part of the United States you're talking about, along the Appalachian Trail, you've got a variety of people that talk about wild men living perfectly fine out there in the wilderness. No problem at all. So, yeah, at that rate, like, maybe you've seen something, not trying to tell you didn't, but it is a big thing when you're going out there and doing your research. You're going out there to look for a spot and see if anything happened in that area, or maybe something weird happened to you and you're looking through your backyard. It's important when you're doing this research to not look for Bigfoot when you're doing it, specifically, because confirmation bias starts to happen. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate whenever you're looking at some documentaries and you're looking at some people and everything that happens is a Bigfoot. And you're like, oh no, not one of these. Because, like, you can kind of notice whenever that happens that it's kind of cheapening the entire thing for everybody. And it gets kind of rough whenever you've got to start arguing past things like that. You know, like, maybe it is, maybe it's not. You know, but, like, the first thing that you need to point out is not it's a Bigfoot. Point out why it's weird. Why would it make you think along that line? Because maybe your instinct made that decision in a snap because it was so weird and it was something that you couldn't think of in your moment. But then maybe take a second, maybe breathe. And like I said, just explain why it's weird. It makes it a lot easier for people to be like, maybe he's right. That is a little weird. Let them come to their own conclusions, maybe. Maybe other things start happening. Maybe found some footprints a little bit later, okay? Maybe it's able to be put together into something a little bit more tangible. But just going off, seeing some weird stuff happening, or having a bionic bird, as they say, or a hoot owl, or whatever call happening to you, you got to be a little bit more wary. But, like, I like a lot of these audio stories. A lot of call stories is something I like looking into. And I do think that the next big breakthrough in Bigfoot might actually be on the audio side of the entire spectrum, especially when it comes to biology research. But, I don't know. Hey guys, this is post-editing Jaster here just to bring you a quick message. Whatever we recorded here past this point in the episode, it was a botched mess. So I'm not going to go ahead and torture you guys with listening to all of that. We just tried to talk a little bit about the Deliverance movie, and there really just wasn't a whole lot to go on about there. We were recording really late in the night, it just became a whole thing. So we just wanted to go ahead and save y'all from that whole mess. With that, though, we do want to go ahead and talk about us being at the Red River Gorge Bigfoot Expo at the end of May here. We got a lot of exciting plans going on with that, and we plan on talking about our experience with that later. But with that, guys, y'all have a wonderful night, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one.